Greetings everyone, it is I am the one and only Lolo Bunny here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Pony Kart DS, a ROM hack of Mario Kart DS for the Nintendo DS. So, last time, we did somehow manage to conclude the forms of every single Grand Prix in this whole entire ROM hack, which, it turns out, we did somehow manage to went into the Special Cup as Rarity, and oh no, we actually did that particular cup in a flawless victory, and no major issues whatsoever. So because of that, yeah, everything else checks out there. So today for this video is that we are about to be now focusing on some extra modes, starting with the battle modes, which, similar to the forms of how it does it on the vanilla version of Mario Kart DS, obviously though is about the fact that we can able to experience not one, but two battle modes in particular, which appears to be Balloon Battle, which is self-explanatory, and then the other one is Shine Runners, which is basically like the equivalent to, you know, coin runners in Mario Kart Wii all the way up to Mario Kart World at this point, because seriously, it's been very crazy to believe that it's been yesterday since, you know, not only does Nintendo Switch 2 release, but also with Mario Kart World itself as well, among all others as well. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that, like what Joy has mentioned about this since yesterday, after all that she did recently finish up every aspect in terms of Super Princess Peach already, because unfortunately though, one of those upcoming videos that we'll like to surprise you guys has officially been delayed, probably at some point until on Sunday for some time. I mean, I suppose it really doesn't matter to the grand scheme of things, because let's face it though, I just want to get this game finished before we get hyped about the forms of trying out the Nintendo Switch 2 for the first time for ourselves. So either way, so of course we'll show off the balloon battles to start things off. Now, relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that when it comes to the forms of the battle stages themselves, I'm pretty sure for the fact that the stages themselves are basically unchanged compared to the forms of how it does on the vanilla version of Mario Kart DS, so you can still able to actually experience some familiar battle stages ranging from, well, Nintendo DS, Twilight House, Plum, Shore, Tart Top, and Block Fort, and Pipe Plaza, which means that you're able to actually experience not only 4 of one of those Nitro battle courses, but in addition to 2 retro battle courses, like one for Mario Kart 64, which is of course Battle Fort, and then as far as Pipe Plaza was obviously based off of Mario Kart Double Dash. So yeah, you can get the idea for this point. So yeah, for the actual balloon battle, I'm also able to actually start things off with team mode. So just in case we can able to actually show off some bit of variety, or to be more accurate though, we're about to show off the half portion of those specific battle courses with different modes in particular. Like for instance though, let's get into the actual Nintendo DS battle stage right there. Now as you can see on screen, on the top screen specifically, the actual visual change is actually apparent on the top screen portion, because unlike the bottom screen, if you can see on screen, that it still manages to still say Mario Kart DS on it on the bottom screen, as you can tell from the map. But if you're trying to get into the actual gameplay right there, it's actually been replaced by, what else? The Pony Kart DS title screen right there, which not only does it contains the forms of that particular logo for the actual ROM hack, but also as you can tell that we also see Princess Twilight Sparkle as an alicorn, which means that might be your default startup screen if you do manage to able to start things up with the forms of that particular ROM hack in mind. So yeah, everything else will become to expect basically. So either way, now of course, just like the forms of how it does it in Mario Kart DS vanilla version, basically though, in order able to actually get your balloons up, basically though, you're able to actually normally start things off with one balloon, but if you're trying to select or trying to hold down the select button on your Nintendo DS, basically though, this allows you to be able to have another balloon to you. And you can also use the microphone as well if you wanted to, but regardless of such though, I always attempt able to prefer pressing the select button more than anything, just because despite the actual process of able to actually trying to blow up the actual the spare balloon takes a bit of a while to able to actually get anything else sorted. So regardless of such though, yeah, everything else will become to expect when it comes to like battle mode in general. So either way, so I'm sure enough though is about the fact it is pretty hilarious about the fact that most of these pony characters were able to actually experience the actual Nintendo DS console itself. Because as far as I can recall correctly, that there's actually technically one of those My Little Pony games that does exist for the Nintendo DS, but sadly it was actually going to be on Generation 3 as opposed to Generation 4, because we already know for the fact that Generation 4 is very popular even to this day, but I do know for the fact that Generation 3 is pretty bad in my opinion. So, but I may be biased, I guess, so regardless of anything else though, is about the fact that you get the idea what I was expecting for this one right there. So, anyway, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 6th of June today, in some cases in 2025 today, and believe it or not though, is about the fact that today has officially begun in regards to the events of the upcoming gaming event, which appears to be none other than the Summer Game Fest, which I'm afraid to tell you for this point during the events event today, I don't think it's possible we can able to actually mention about it today, but maybe at some point until tomorrow I will do. But if not, then it's probably possible we'll let Maxi will mention more about it if he goes back on playing through Paper Mario for, you know, post-game content in addition to focusing on, you know, the final chapter in the game. Because no matter what though, that seriously, it's been almost a month ago since he last played Paper Mario. So because of that, hopefully we'll get that game sorted out before we're able to actually focusing on the next a couple of Let's Plays in the well, the second half of 2025, and in addition for planning something a little bit of a special videos coming up, not only for the sake of the forms of this coming Sunday, but in addition to potentially speaking of for the main event during at some point until in September, which you get the idea of what I'm talking about. So anyway, so here we go back on to Twilight House right there, which not only does this battle course makes its return, not only for the likes of in Mario Kart Wii, but also recently with Mario Kart Tour. But I will admit it though, while looking back on the Mario Kart Tour version of that particular battle course, I will have to admit though, I was a little bit disappointed with that particular battle course in Mario Kart Tour, mainly because of multiple factors. For one, obviously though, the controls does not suit very well in terms of battle courses like this, and two, there's actually a lot more guardrails in comparison to the forms of how it does it on, you know, not only this particular version of Twilight House, but also with the forms of the Wii version as well, because obviously though, what makes those two previous versions so fun to begin with is the massive chaos of it, and also not to mention though, the lack of guardrails. So if you accidentally fall off, then you obviously lose your balloon, or in some cases loses your points, depending on what mode you're in. So, in addition to that though, is about the fact that not only that though, that I just really hate the fact that they obviously tend to reuse the exact same music track over and over and over again, at least with every single battle courses in Mario Kart Tour in mind. That obviously though, the main track itself is, well, to be more specifically though, the actual music plays out almost constantly with Battle Course 1 based off from Super Mario Kart, or to be more accurate though, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version of that particular music, and I'm like, that's no fun. I just really wish if we were able to actually hear, you know, the Mario Kart DS Battle Course music, because obviously though, that particular music in mind is actually very iconic to me still, but I'm just a little bit too nitpicky at this point. So anyway, so there's also another thing else I would like to explain to you all, is about the fact that, remember how Joy did somehow already mentions about the forms of, yes, there are some more announcements has been officially been revealed for the most recent State of Play Direct, thanks to PlayStation. So because of that, now as far as I'm aware, that the last time that Joy did somehow mention about something, and as of course, the actual reveal of Mortal Kombat Classic Collection compilation is going to be on its way, not only for the sake of the forms of the PlayStation 4, alongside with PlayStation 5, but in addition to that, there's also going to be on Xbox systems, like Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, and even PC, Steam, and of course, not only Nintendo Switch 1, but also Nintendo Switch 2 as well. So I can't really tell what specific version I might as well get on my spare own time. I mean, mind you though, about the fact that the release date hasn't exactly been confirmed for reals though, because it did say it's about to be releasing at some point in this year, in 2025, and it did say wish list now, so this means about the fact that we can able to expect to know what specific games they'll be added to that particular compilation. Now, as far as I'm aware, they did somehow only added a couple of games so far, has been confirmed for that particular compilation, which appears to be multitude of versions of Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and that's about it basically. So for instance, in Mortal Kombat, released in 1992, there's going to be the arcade version, as well as the Super Nintendo version, and the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis version. In addition to that, there's also the Game Boy version and the Sega Game Gear version, which is pretty interesting to say the least. And in addition to that, there's also Mortal Kombat 2, which only came out in 1993 back then, and it does manage to also have the arcade version, as well as the Super Nintendo version, as well as the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive versions, and even especially noticeable with the Game Boy version. And the honest thing about it is that there's no Game Gear version, so instead they're going to be revealing the 32X version, which is basically like, you know, the miserable failure add-on for the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis, what I've heard. So yeah, that's about that. And next up we have is the original version of Mortal Kombat 3, and it's going to be containing 3 versions in particular, which appears to be the arcade version, as well as the Super Nintendo version, and finally the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis versions. So yeah, I guess it's that. And then eventually there's also the Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which is basically more accurately the superior version of Mortal Kombat 3, because what I've heard, that the original version of Mortal Kombat 3, they somehow managed to able to delist it, or to somehow, in worst case scenario, manage to get rid of one of the most iconic playable characters in Mortal Kombat history, which appears to be Scorpion, which no matter what though, that seems rather odd, doesn't it? Although, for what I can gather about the fact that Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 did manage to able to bring back Scorpion as a playable character, so I guess that makes it a little bit more sensical kind of thing about it. Although, for what I've also realized about the fact that there's no Raiden or Johnny Cage to be playable characters in both Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, but that's besides the point. So, anyway, there's only like 2 versions will be added for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which appears to be the arcade version, as well as the Super Nintendo version. So, yeah, I guess it's that. And lastly, we go on to the forms of the final 3 games at this point, or technically 4 actually. So in some cases, next up we have is Mortal Kombat 4, which is only has 1 version on that particular compilation, which appears to be the original arcade version. Although I was assuming for the fact that they're trying to able to actually bring in not only the PlayStation version, but alongside with the Nintendo 64 and PC versions, even especially noticeable with the superior counterpart called Mortal Kombat Gold for the Sega Dreamcast. But unfortunately though, that's not the case so far. Maybe they'll try to add more for the sake of the future updates, or to be more specifically DLC. But time will definitely tell though. But anyway, next up we have is Mortal Kombat Advance for the Game Boy Advance, and in addition to Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance for the Game Boy Advance as well. And finally, Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition, also for the Game Boy Advance. So, I'm guessing, to be more specifically though, that all of these games are most likely in 2D perspective, as opposed to 2.5D. So, oh well, no big deal. Maybe they'll try to add more games to the table in the next coming updates for that particular compilation, but then again, time will definitely tell. So as you can tell, we essentially did manage to win the entire, well, 3 wins consecutively for that particular balloon battle as the forms of Derby. So now let's move on to the next playable character, which appears to be DJ Pong 3, or Final Scratch, depending on what you were trying to call her that. So either way, because I'm pretty sure for the fact that we did manage to able to select 2 of those characters that did not speak at all. Well, mind you, in Derpy's case, that she occasionally did try to speak in some episodes, mainly with the forms of the last roundup, and in addition to Slice of Life episodes, and that's as far as I can try to think about it. So anyways, now let's go ahead and get on to the forms of no team battle this time, with the forms of the Shrine Runners. So, of course, we need to be able to grab the insane amount of Shrine Sprites as much as we could, and then if we don't collect enough, this means we'll be out. So because of that though, yeah, I just have to make sure for the fact that we don't get hit like that, because otherwise if you get hit while you're holding the Shrine Sprites will go to somewhere else. So you know, think of like the forms of the similar concept as in Shine Thief, but not only for Mario Kart Double Dash, but every nowadays with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as well. Although except the fact that there's no in-game time, whenever you do manage to able to hold the Shine Sprites and stuff, so instead you're able to actually try to collect the insane amount of those Shine Sprites before you're able to get knocked out or anything else like that. I mean, it has been about kind of think about it, it's been about 5 days ago actually, since I actually have last played this game. Well, actually, technically speaking though, it's like, yeah, it's roughly about 5 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure. Just because, if you couldn't tell already, for the fact that obviously though, that at this point in time, I just want to get this game finished, just before we dive into the Nintendo Switch 2 on our spare own time. But of course, like we've already established that before, unfortunately though, that particular video dedicated to Nintendo Switch 2 is officially being delayed at some point on this Sunday, because obviously we just wanted taken care of most of these Let's Plays first, so just in case we don't lose track of ourselves, so I digress. So, oh yeah, back into what I was saying about the forms of the State of Play announcements. Next up they did show us, which appears to be a yet another accessory, but this time around though, it appears to be a yet another controller for the PlayStation 5 specifically. That's what appears to be the first fight stick made by PlayStation, which, yeah, I got nothing else to say, so either way. And also the next thing they did show us, which appears to be more gameplay footage of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which not only does it show us some more gameplay footage, but in addition to that, more snippets about the forms of this very cool mode, where it appears to be almost inspired by Ape Escape, which as a result, if you're familiar with that particular game before, both Ape Escape 1, Ape Escape 2, as well as Ape Escape 3, obviously that was about the fact that your objective is just simply trying to capture those monkeys, but this time you can play as, well, Solid Snake. So that's actually pretty cool to me though, especially considering for the fact that the release date is basically unchanged, so it's still going to be releasing until August 28th for this year. So expecting to be hyped for the PlayStation 5 version as well as the Xbox Series X versions pretty much. So anyways, next up we have is Neo 3, which I've got nothing else to say about that particular game personally, but I do know for a fact it's going to be releasing until in earlier 2026. So, and next up we have is Thief VR Legacy of Shadow, which as far as I'm aware, that's going to be coming onto the PlayStation VR 2 in this year in particular, so I guess it's that. And next up we have is Tides of Tomorrow, so that's interesting, which as far as I'm aware, that's going to be on PlayStation 5 and possibly next generation of systems as well, which also includes Xbox Series X as far as I can recall. But regardless of such though, Tides of Tomorrow is going to be releasing until the 24th of February in 2026, so yeah, I guess it's that. And also, unexpectedly, we're about to be expecting to have yet another update for Astro Bot for the PlayStation 5, which, gee, no wonder why that particular game is much more successful at this point, especially considering for the fact that obviously ever since in last year, that Astro Bot did manage to be able to deserve to have the Game of the Year award back in 2024, as you probably would expect, which, as far as I'm aware, the next update they'll be revealing something, and that's what appears to be 5 new challenge levels, so that's going to be interesting. And what's even more crazy is about the fact that by that time until the next update comes, that brings us into whopping 90 planets to explore in Astro Bot. So yeah, that's actually pretty insane if you ask me, because gee, again, like I said before, no wonder why that game is so successful on the PlayStation 5 that is. So anyway, the next game they did show us, which appears to be Sea Ant Re-Ant, I think is what it says anyway. Again, I do apologize for that particular mispronunciation of that specific game's title, by the way, but that's besides the point. So, yeah, that game is going to be releasing until next year for 2026. And in addition to that, we also have Sword of the Sea, which is almost like an open world kind of game, but you can able to catch a ride on that particular magical sword in anywhere else, which is kind of cool, honestly. And believe it or not, it's also already been confirmed the actual release date for the game, which apparently though is going to be releasing until in August 19th, for specifically in this year in 2025 for sure. So no matter what though, it's going to be on PlayStation 5 no matter what. So And after this though, they've shown us some more bits, like for instance though, likely a reminder of some sorts, like for instance there's FBC Firebreak, which I've got no comments for this point, but I do know it's going to be coming at some point in this month in particular, in June, so that's going to be coming on PlayStation 5 and Game Catalog, at least as far as we do know of. And in addition to that, they also did manage to able to bring some classic PlayStation 2 stuff here and there, such as for instance though with the forms of DSX, which I believe that's also going to be releasing in this month, in June to be more specifically. So in addition to that, there's also going to be Twisted Metal 3 and Twisted Metal 4 is going to be coming onto the actual classics catalog for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, presumably speaking, for the PlayStation Plus subscription, and no matter what though, it's going to be out and during at some point until next month, so yeah, it's not going to be that very long, doesn't it? And on top of that, there's also Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 original classics from the PlayStation days, so no matter what though, it's about to be coming onto the classics catalog until some point in summer in this year, which it could be either be on July or June, or perhaps even maybe in August for some time. So, now I suppose that's all there is to it. Now I suppose there's actually the last thing I want to discuss upon actually, is that we got ourselves our first look at the forms of the brand new trailer for James Bond 007 First Light, which I'm afraid to tell you, I'm basically out of time for able to actually mention about this particular subject right now, but I promise you guys, join at some point until tomorrow, if possible, that we can definitely mention about the forms of the last few bits of some more announcements. So with that being said, folks, that pretty much does it for this video right here, so join me next time for some more of Let's Play of Pony Kart DS, a ROM hack of Mario Kart DS. Is that this might actually be the grand finale of this Let's Play, basically, but not only trying to show you guys time trials, but also versus race as well, specifically in mirror mode. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.